Open Your Eyes is brought to you by the Belize Bank. Our country, your bank.
Good morning and welcome to Open Your Eyes.
Start your morning right.
I'm Marlene Cuellar.
And I'm Paul Lopez.
And thank you for joining us this morning.
Beautiful morning, at least from my perspective, Marlene. It's been a beautiful weekend. Weather. What I liked about what happened in Belize City this weekend is that it didn't rain and it was overcast.
Yeah.
Which meant that for those who wanted to do their laundry, they could have gotten it done. If you hang out your clothes on a line outside, but at the same time, you didn't have to endure the heat. And so I loved this weekend vibe when it came to the weather.
That's right. This morning, though, it does look like some rain's going to sneak up on us. We're going to check in on the weather very shortly, but it is a very energetic Monday morning. Yeah. There's a lot buzzing all around.
I don't know if it's because we're in that week where it's the April Fool's week. It's the first of April.
You gave all the pranksters element of surprise away.
One time, because nobody's going to catch me in anything. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot happening. Did you happen to catch your Oscars last night, Marlene?
Well, you know, there's a lot of Belize buzz. We'll be getting into that very shortly. Of course, we're fresh off the UDP Leadership Convention, and we have quite a bit to recap there. But I will say, I did wake up this morning thinking more about Will Smith and Chris Rock than Shine Barrow. It was crazy.
It was.
And I'm still trying to figure out, was this planned, you know?
I think everybody is still trying to figure it out, and that speaks to the greatness of these men as actors. They've been in the industry for so long that to this point, if it's staged or not, you can't tell. But I mean, this clip, this incident, the situation has gone viral. And one of the things I've noticed, which is perhaps worth looking at, is that each country, each culture, they've found a way to kind of meme it into the way they understand.
So our Belizean memers were on top of it.
Belizean memers were on top of it in a way that perhaps the U.S. audience might not understand, U.S. audience on top of it, and even across Central America. And so for me, that was the fun part to watch, to look at the memes and say, oh, I don't understand that, but it seems like thousands of people get that from that country.
Yeah, you know, I guess, you know, that's going to continue to be the buzz today, to see what's going to be the fallout from that. From all accounts, it does seem like an unplanned, unscripted moment at the Oscars last night. And if you weren't watching, you probably went back and found the clip to see what happened. And, you know, just a quick recap. This is... you know, Chris Rock makes a joke about Will Smith's wife and, you know, talks about G.I. Jane 2 because she has her head shaved. And she has been very open about her struggle with coming to acceptance with a medical condition called alopecia, where she loses her hair. And, yeah, you could see in her face she was not happy with the joke. And, of course, people who were... looking at it, saw Will Smith laughing for a bit. Then he just walks up on stage and smacks Chris Rock. It's just, it's one of those unbelievable moments on television. And I know, you know, in terms of our Belizean reality, it has no consequence, but I know you're going to be talking about it
today.
And, you know, the fallout has been... He did have an acceptance speech for Best Actor for King Richard, the movie, a bit later, where he apologized not to Chris Rock, but to the Academy and to the fellow actors there. Very tearful, talked about defending family. But yeah, this is going to be a divisive one. Was he right? Was he wrong? Is it that clear cut?
Will Smith, if this is to be believed as true, he's appeared to have sought to defend his family. As any black man, any husband, any father rightfully would. Get up, defend their family, especially in a situation where you could clearly see that your wife felt that sting and you know perhaps in the privacy of your own home how much she struggles with this issue. And then for this to be placed on a public platform in a comedic manner, in a joking way, that perhaps crosses a line that Will Smith didn't want to be crossed. And so I saw it as him defending his family. We saw Denzel Washington, we saw Tyler Perry. They all supporting him in terms of kind of trying to calm him down. Anyways,
it's a touchy issue. I mean, I think here's what I think. I think a lot of times we want like black and white responses to things. Multiple things can be true at the same time. You can agree that it's not right to use a person's medical condition as the butt of their jokes. It is true that as public personas who collect a lot of money just from being a public persona are also a part of the price they pay is being the butt of jokes. And it can also be true that it's good to defend, but also not be violent.
Definitely.
So, you know, it's a real complex issue there. I think, as I said, it has been divisive. People have talked or like, yeah, he's right. No, he's wrong. And, you know, how dare people give a standing ovation when he goes up for a speech a bit later on. So, yeah, that's the buzz today. The slap. And Chris Rock for keeping his composure. Come on, man. Yeah.
Right? He
like,
did.
one, not reacting immediately in anger because you've just been assaulted. And secondly, just kind of keeping the show going after that.
He stood firm like a rock.
Yeah, crazy stuff. All right, but I just got to say that because that's the first thing everybody's talking about when we get in here. So clearly that's what you're waking up to find out as well. But we got to get moving into our show because we got to get into a recap of the United Democratic Party's leadership convention. And everybody knows the results already. Shine is now officially the leader of the UDP party and leader of the opposition. But let's start you off with some motivation for this morning with our eye-opener. And our eye-opener taken from dailyom.com goes like this. If we trust in a universe that has a higher purpose, then family members are in our lives for a good reason. Families can contain a fascinating grouping of personalities. Despite the potential for so many to have similar traits, there are many different ways to express them. As people marry into families and have children, even more personalities enter the picture. There may be some people that we would not choose to be related to, and that's what friends are for. Our families help us see where we have come from so that we may more clearly decide where we'd like to go. If we can learn to accept our families for who they are, then we go out into the world armed with the ability to deal with anyone. What we learn from our families, even if they're simply blank spots on our family trees, becomes the basis of our identities as individuals. Rather than denying our connections, we can choose to accept their presence in our lives. When we can embrace all that they bring into our experience, we may be grateful for all we have learned from them and have to learn, while we experience everything that comes with family fully and completely.
Yeah.
Yeah, just we agree.
We agree.
Families are different, complex, and you know, I do like that point though, that learning to have that level of acceptance with people right within your family is kind of a great starting point for learning to have acceptance with different people you meet in life.
Indeed.
Because even though you have in families, especially immediate families, similar upbringings, I'm sure you're very different from your siblings.
The dynamics are different in the family. I think if you're able to master your siblings, especially if you come from a big household, and I don't mean master as in lording it over them, but I come from a big family, and if you're able to master the personalities, you're able to master the different types of anger and how they express their emotions. When you get out there, you won't necessarily have a challenge. Oh, my brother react exactly the same way, and I'm used to it, and I know how it happens. But of course, it takes building that relationship with family, being intentional, which isn't always the easiest thing to do, but it starts there. It starts with embracing those personalities and those ways how they react.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right, so that is our eye-opener for this morning, some motivation to get you started. And next up, we'll be checking in on our weather. And we're going to find out what we can expect for today. And the general situation is for relatively moist conditions to prevail. The 24-hour forecast is for cloudy with a few showers and light rain around the country. The winds are moving from the east at 10 to 20 knots, and the sea state is moderate. The highs for today are going to be?
The highs for today is going to be 82 degrees in the coast, while the low is going to be a bit chilly, 76 degrees along the coast, while the highs for inland will be 87 degrees and the low 68 degrees. And within the hills, we have 72 degrees as the highs, and 60, a chilling, freezing 60 degrees up in the hills.
All right, and the outlook for the next few days, a few showers will continue to affect the country on Tuesday, decreasing and becoming isolated on Tuesday night. We want to thank Francisca Wellington for that update. All right, so as we said, it's looking a bit like it's going to rain.
It's like this type of weather is going to continue. They call it what? Unstable.
All right, but of course the good news is that it's only a few days we're going to have to deal with that. They're saying it's going to be isolated showers by about Tuesday night.
Yeah.
All right, and with that out of the way, it's time for us to find out more about the big news from the weekend. So we're going to shift gears to Eye on the News.
What's buzzing this morning in Belize, of course, is the UDP Leadership Convention, or the results of the UDP Leadership Convention. We're going to be spending a huge chunk of time in the first segment talking about that, because we do have Tracy Panton, who was one of the candidates, will be coming in live to sit with us and have that discussion. Nonetheless, we begin our Eye on the News this morning talking about that leadership convention, which kicked off at around 9:10 a.m. yesterday morning at a Big Bird's Isle here in Belize City. What we saw at the end of the day, just to tell you in terms of the amount of delegates that came out to vote, we saw a total of 509 delegates coming out to vote, and you already know the results by now. We saw that Shine Barrow was officially elected the new leader of the United Democratic Party with a total of 259 votes, while the Honorable Tracy Panton received 256 votes.
53,
56.
Yes.
Yes, and so that's exactly what happened there. Now, there was a bit of controversy right after the votes were counted. There was a bit of controversy in terms of Tracy Panton and her camp kind of deliberating. We saw some frustrations there within her camp, whether they were trying to deliberate in terms of whether they would take the matter to court to kind of challenge the results, or whether they would ask for a recount there at the convention. And eventually, we saw where Ms. Panton, Honorable Panton, made her way over to the chairman of the United Democratic Party, and it appeared as if a discussion was being held. I don't know for sure, and we'll have to ask her if that recount was requested. I believe it was, and then I believe that it was denied, and the party chairman gave an explanation for that. What we do have right now, what I do want to show you, is a clip from the now leader of the United Democratic Party, Shine Barrow.
The leader of the UDP, how does it feel, sir?
I'm extremely humbled and grateful. And I definitely kudos to Honorable Panton for a hard-fought victory. She has proven herself as a formidable political force, and we have shaken hands, and we have agreed to work together for the interest of the United Democratic Party. Thank you to all the delegates that have given me their confidence today.
Extremely close outcome, 256 to 253.
You said I would lose, so the ugly win is a better result than a pretty lose.
Okay, but so fair enough. Yes. But you know, it's indicative that the party is a very divided party.
You know, Michael Jordan has won championships by one basket, so it's nothing new in life. The party is a healthy reflection of democracy. I think we handled ourselves pretty well. There wasn't a lot of mudslinging, any at all. You know, kept it internal. And, you know, Tracy and I have been in touch all throughout for parliamentary matters. Today when she walked in, I hugged her. When I walked past her, as we're both campaigning today, we would say hello to each other, and we shook hands and we hugged and we embraced, and we will move forward. I love this party, and part of a democracy is that you will have dissent. So my position has never been to have any type of hatred towards people that were not supporting me. So I say all that to say I am going to sit down. We're going to look at everything. I am more concerned about people who were just occupying positions and not working. But if someone was doing an outstanding job in a particular position, just because that person may have voted for Tracy or may have been a FABA proponent, I am not, my instinct is not to get rid of anyone. That's not how I think. I want what's best for the party. And, you know, wise people actually take those that were against them and get them to join forces with them. And so the same type of, I was telling Roosevelt Blades, I was telling other people, the same type of injuries when they try and inflict upon me, if we would come together and inflict that on the PUP, we'd form a formidable force.
Why not have a recount?
That is a decision for the chairman to make. He made his decision, him and the vice chairman, and so we need to move on.
So obviously, Marlene, there has been turmoil, long-standing turmoil within the party in terms of the number of conventions and leadership challenges that they have faced, beginning from before the November 2020 general elections. And the question that must be put now, does this settle that turmoil? Does this bring an end to it? How does the party now move forward and unite to present a formidable force for in the House, first of all, as the opposition, and then as well as they prepare for the general elections that is some 3 years away?
Yeah, and even before that, I mean, you have village council elections coming up, you have municipal elections coming up. I think one of the things, you know, we were making note of is just how the internal turmoil has been playing out publicly for quite some time. You're looking at 2 leadership conventions prior to the 2020 election. There was the recall to remove Patrick Faber as the leader of the party. He then subsequently resigned, and here we are again with another leadership convention. And really, you know, I think when you put all the circumstances into play, the hope, I would imagine, for the United Democratic Party is that this would be a turning point where they can get back on solid footing, because it has been shaky for a really long time. Now, with such a close margin, there's a lot of rebuilding that has to be done. Had it been a sway or a landslide in either direction, then you'd think, okay, the party is unified as much as you can be with 500 votes in total in what they want in terms of leadership. So that's still leaving space for rebuilding of relationships and trying to build that sense of camaraderie so that they can move forward. And that's just internally for the United Democratic Party. On the outside, I think that we keep on saying it over and over, and we hope that people understand that, it's not just about PUP and UDP. A democratic country needs a strong opposition. It is vital, especially when we have such a majority in government. So I believe that when we keep on saying this point, it's because who is going to be the representatives that are going to scrutinize whatever is presented in the House, raise concerns on behalf of the public. That's part of the role of what the opposition do. They're called the opposition. So being able to have them on strong footing is critical for all of us. And so we'll see what the fallout of this convention will be subsequently.
To this generation, to my generation, not aging you by any bit, Marlene, because we could put you as a part of my generation. But to my generation, at least following the 2020 general elections, we haven't been able to witness that type of opposition leadership in terms of the strength of the opposition, in terms of the arguments in the House, a formidable opposition. We haven't been able to witness that in the House. We haven't been able to get a sense of what a strong opposition looks like and should look like. And I think that is to our disadvantage. And so it is to be seen. It is yet to be seen whether or not that will come, whether or not we will see that type of opposition in the House, and whether we'll begin to see that in the discourses. I think what this generation, and I heard it said yesterday, that the UDP missed an opportunity for Belize to see its Mia Motley, for example. Because that's what we know, that's what we could refer to, that Belize missed that opportunity. And
I'm glad you said that, because I think it was really interesting to see the public sentiment.
Yeah.
And I kept on saying to people when they asked, I said, it's not the people that are going to decide. It is the delegates that are chosen by area representatives. So it was 100% internal. It was not based. Now, whether the representatives polled the constituents, tuned in to what was being said online or in public discourse, I can't say that for sure. Or was it a matter of just the political hierarchy and preferences within the party itself? So, this is the results that we are reporting on today. 3 votes was what made the difference, and we understand, I believe it was 7 persons who did not participate, which definitely could have made a difference in yesterday's results.
I'll tell you though, Marlene, the Honorable Panton shocked a lot of people. She did not go in this, she went in as the underdog. I'll say that much based on public's perspective. She went in as the underdog. And I heard it uttered in several circles that she didn't stand a chance, that there was no way she would even come close to the type of buy-in, the type of votes that Shine received. So yes, we were hearing it earlier in the day from different members within the party that it would be a close race. There are even times when reports were suggesting that the Honorable Panton was ahead and that she was positioned to win the race. Then to hear the results and hear that it was only by 3 votes, I was shocked. Not because I don't think that she's a force to be reckoned with. I was shocked simply because of what the atmosphere and what the environment and what the public was saying and what it had appeared to be. But again, in politics, you never know.
Well, there's always a saying, elections are won on election day itself. But it is interesting when you look at both candidates. You're talking about experience versus a newcomer, a first-time representatives. You're talking about the gender in politics, the gender dynamics in politics. You're also talking about legacy issues. I mean, we can't sit here and not say that Shine Barrow is not the former leader's son. What influence did that have on the votes itself, if any? And how does the party feel to now have a son carry on the mantle of a three-time prime minister? So there are lots of questions, and as I said, you know, internally, I think they have a lot to work out. We'll have more to be able to cover in the newscast tonight, but that is the result of this morning. And as we said, we are going to be talking with Honorable Tracy Panton this morning about her run for the leadership and dissecting the results. She's here already, so we're going to keep things moving.
So in our second conversation, Marlene, perhaps we go back just a bit before we go ahead to just two more topics. We go back to the interventions we're seeing in Belize City under the leadership of Howell Gillett. Last week, we saw several interventions, and we've been able to cover most of them. We know Howell Gillett. We know that he's very media friendly. Whenever he does any interventions, first he calls to come and do some coverage and to kind of interact and engage with these different activities. And so last week we saw where mothers from different communities came together to try and find a working plan to address the issues that has been plaguing, particularly Southside Belize City, with gang violence and crime. Then we saw some intervention with religious leaders as well. So it went from parents, we went to religious leaders, kind of bringing all the community dynamics together to address the issues that we have at hand. Sorry about that.
So we had the religious leaders, the parents, and then on Friday the children were taken to...
And then on Friday, the children were taken to the prison. It was like an episode straight out of Scared Straight. I'm not sure if you've watched those episodes, at least got a glimpse of it on TLC, I think it is, Scared Straight, where they take these children into prison and kind of yell at them and bang on the gates to say, you don't want to be here. This is not the place for you. But obviously, it was a very tamed episode of Scared Straight.
No, I found some of the inmates saying some really inspirational stuff. I think, you know, it's not the first time. It's not the first time children who are at risk or who've come in conflict with the law have been taken to Kobe to see what life is like there. The hope is always that it will be enough to discourage them from continuing in a life of crime. I do think that the involvement of religious leaders is a great step. The religious leaders have a great deal of influence in communities, and it is untapped at this point. And I don't know if it should be tapped into, or by virtue of them being religious organizations, that they should really be outpouring into the community assistance to be able to help to reduce the level of crime within their communities. But yeah, you know, I tuned into that, and it was, I appreciated some of the things that we heard the inmates saying, and I do hope that they don't fall on deaf ears. But I will always go back to one fundamental point, you know, inspiration really only goes so far. There are fundamental issues in communities, and it will always go back to one of the primary root causes, well, two, breakdown in families and poverty. So I could be as inspired to not be involved in crime, but when there are bread and butter issues, literally, how do I get the bread on the table, or survival mode instincts that kick in, the inspiration won't take me, or won't keep me away. It may work for a few, and that is the hope. And any life saved is success. But there are other issues, and I still think that there has to be integration with the Ministry of Home Affairs and the other ministries. And we'll be talking a bit about that with the education project, because it does go deeper than saying, don't commit crimes.
Yeah, definitely. And so that's one of the things that we'll continue to look at, especially in the newsroom, and continue to follow these interventions and see the results of those. And then finally, Marlene, it's the last week in March, and at the end of the week is April 1st. And last week, News 5 was able to confirm in an exclusive interview with the Minister of Health, Honorable Kevin Bernard, that as of April 1st, the plan is to lift all measures related to COVID-19, with the exception of the wearing of the mask indoors. And so that comes as exciting news to people across the country. Of course, all may not be happy with it, but for the majority, based on what I'm seeing, that comes as exciting news. So we're talking about, well, the curfew has already been lifted. We're talking especially about the bars and nightclubs and those restrictions being removed.
Yeah.
It's interesting that April 1st will fall on a Friday. And so it's a Friday night. It's also April Fool's. I don't know that the minister will come out on Friday and say, "I got you." Go back to curfew. I don't know that will happen, but I definitely know that Friday and April 1st is a Friday, and that's the time. On a Friday is the time when people usually go out and engage in that nightlife and those.
Yeah, looking forward to getting the details on that. What does lifting regulations mean? He did say in that interview that he expects that indoor mask mandates will continue, and it's going to become a matter of personal responsibility on how you protect yourself. But there are nightclubs, bars, and discos that have been closed for a really long time, but also limitations on capacity for certain areas. So when you think of weddings and funerals and things like that, those have had a limit for some time, even though we've seen them not being adhered to quite a few times. So we're waiting for those details to see what the changes are going to be.
And what I do find interesting is that establishments are operating already as if it is already April 1st.
All right. Well, that's what we have in store for you with Eye on the News. And with that, we're going to get moving into our show.
Yes, and so we have some very interesting discussions lined up for you this morning. And of course, we are beginning with a discussion with the Honorable Tracy Panton, who will be engaging us on conversation with relation to yesterday's UDP Leadership Convention and the way forward.
That's right. And as we mentioned earlier, one of the developments that we've heard over the past few months is that there's a pilot project being rolled out in the south side of Belize City. It includes free education and a number of other things tied into it. So we're going to get the details of that from the CEO of the Ministry of Education in the later part of our show. But we're going to go ahead and take a break. I know we have a birthday shout out too.
We do. We have a birthday shout out.
Who's saying happy birthday to?
We're saying happy birthday to Jacinthia Flowers.
All right.
Happy birthday, Jacinthia, from all of us here at Open Your Eyes and Channel 5. I do hope you have a wonderful Monday with all the love and blessings and showers of gifts that usually comes with birthdays.
All right, do enjoy. And with that, we're going to go ahead and take a break. When we come back, we'll have our conversation with Honorable Tracy Panton talking about the results and the campaign of the UDP Leadership Convention. So please, stay tuned.
Download the SmartStream app on the Android Play Store and create your account to get access to movies and stream at home or on the go. Prepaid customers can purchase regular data packages or get a discounted rate on a special SmartStream package by dialing 7737. Postpaid customers will be billed monthly. Never miss a movie again with SmartStream.
After a rough week of school, Jake and his friends decide to treat themselves to frozen coffee. And since they don't have cash on them, they decide to use eCash. With eCash's geolocation feature, Jake can easily find the nearest coffee spot. With eCash's built-in option to split bills, Jake can pay the bill and his friends can reimburse their portion of the bill. Jake scans the merchant's code and confirms payment. Jake then views his transaction history and taps on the transaction recently made, then taps the Split the Bill button where he selects the Evenly option to evenly split the bill. The application splits the bill automatically. His friends receive and accept the request. Geolocation and splitting the bill via eCash makes Jake enjoy his digital lifestyle.
Together we can stop the violence by being responsible and respectful partners and fathers in the future.
I will take responsibility to respect women and girls and hold other young men accountable who use hurtful behavior and speech.
Toxic masculinity traits and harmful social norms about how men should behave contributes to gender inequality and violence and fear that women and girls face.
I realize that gender-based violence is a problem that will never end until all boys and men work to end it by resolving conflicts without violence.
We all have a responsibility, and that is why we encourage others to spread this message, to commit to advancing gender equality and to end gender-based violence.
I commit.
I commit.
I commit.
I commit
I commit
to make changes to end
violence
violence
in
in my life
elsewhere.
and elsewhere.
Together we can stop the violence.
Messi! Off goal! What a goal from Leo Messi! What an incredible strike from Leo Messi! Neymar and Messi is standing over this. Messi! Off goal! What a goal from Leo
Great
Messi!
entertainment stays with you, and we bring you great entertainment. Next Gen, the ultimate digital experience.
We're back and we're moving into our first conversation for this morning. Of course, we reported earlier on the results of the UDP Leadership Convention, where the results were revealed a bit before 4 p.m. and within a very, very tight race, Shine Barrow emerged as the official leader of the United Democratic Party. And of course, contender in that race was Honorable Tracy Panton.
Good morning.
And she is with us this morning having a conversation about this campaign and about the results. Good morning, and thank you for joining us.
Good morning to both of you, and of course, good morning to our viewers.
A missed, and I said it earlier, and so I think it's only right I start with that. A missed opportunity for Belize. That's what some people are saying. A missed opportunity to see the next Mia Motley of the Caribbean, the Mia Motley of Belize. Of course, speaking to you. What do you say when you hear that, when you think about that?
Well, that's indeed very humbling to think that the people who think of you in that way. The journey was a very steep hill. I said that when we started this process. We had no illusions that it would have been easy. But I am particularly proud of what we were able to accomplish yesterday. It is clear that democracy is alive and well in the United Democratic Party. We had an internal convention to seek a new leader of the party, and I think that convention and the campaign certainly within a very short period of time we were able to cover a lot of ground. It was an amazing journey for me, having the opportunity to travel to almost every nook and cranny of this country, meeting with members of our UDP family who I may not have had an opportunity to interact with before. I certainly have an opportunity to interact with my colleagues, but not necessarily with our delegates. And listening to them and learning from them and being able to share ideas with them has been an enlightening and enriching experience. Certainly, there's some disappointment. I think I would have wanted to win. I think my candidacy brought a lot to the table, but in these kinds of competitions, somebody will emerge the victor. I take this opportunity publicly to congratulate my colleague, the Honorable Shine Barrow, our new leader of the United Democratic Party. And as I said through the campaign, and I will say this now, that the party has a lot of work to do, a lot of work, a lot of healing, a lot of uniting, a lot of rebuilding. And I certainly will put in my pound of flesh to ensure that we accomplish that goal in the shortest amount of time. We need to be a viable opposition. This country deserves it. And so I certainly will not be a detractor. I certainly will do what I can to support the work of the party in moving us forward.
So I appreciate you kind of sharing your look forward, but let's for a moment kind of dissect what's happened over the past just month and a half, and even just yesterday for a period of about an hour when those votes were being counted. There was a moment where word was that you were going to win. Tell us about that emotional high and low for you, and then finally coming to acceptance with the results.
Well, you know, I'm still unclear what happened in the accounting process. And I say that because there were some discrepancies. And at the end of the day, I had requested a recount just to be absolutely clear because there were some discrepancies. The chairman of the party, he has the right, the authority to make that determination, refuse for a recount, and indicated that if I wanted a recount, I needed to take the party to court. That's not going to happen. This party certainly does not need any further divisions or divisiveness as we try to rebuild. So, you know, there's always that lingering thought that having the confirmation would have been helpful, I think, to the process of rebuilding and uniting. However, I have accepted the results. We knew it was going to be a tight race. We had no illusions about that. But that, you know, the results are in, and our delegates have spoken, and I do respect the view of the delegates.
What are those discrepancies? Since you're saying that this will not proceed to court action, what are the discrepancies that made you feel that you wanted reassurance?
Well, in one of the boxes there were more ballots than there were actual persons who should have voted in that ballot box, for example. So I think we really needed to have the recount, just for absolute clarity in this process. But as I said, I am certainly not going to take my party to court in a situation like this because of where we currently are and what we need to do collectively to ensure that we can hold this administration to account and that we can do the work that we need to do internally to rebuild the party and to ready the party to be able to contest the village council elections, the municipal elections, and ultimately the general elections.
Is your entire team on board with not proceeding with court action?
I'm not sure that they are on board. Ultimately, the decision rests with me. You know, I think it's time, we all need to get some rest. The emotions, of course. You know, there's a measure of disappointment. We've worked very hard in this process, and I think it's time for us to take a breath, exhale a little bit, get some rest, and let us not think about only what's good for us, but we have to look at the bigger picture and what's good for the party. And more importantly, I keep saying this in the campaign, it's not only what's good for the party, it's what's important to Belize at this time in us maintaining a robust democracy.
There was a particular moment, since we're talking about the recount and the court action, there was a particular moment after the votes were counted where it seemed as if members in your camp, they got infuriated, and you stepped in and you sought to calm the situation. You said, we don't need to care nobody in a court with a one party. Let's go and ask for a recounter. You discussed the matter. I've seen it being described as a defining moment when it comes to your leadership. That ability to think on your feet, to calm, to let cool heads prevail. How are you able to kind of ascertain what was happening in the moment and then kind of cause or ask everybody to keep a cool head?
You know, we've been through a very difficult time as a party, and we've had successive leadership conventions, and they have been very divisive. They have done nothing to help us in the rebuilding process that we must go through. And so when I look at what has happened, what has transpired in the party over the last 17 months or so, you know, I really feel very strongly that we are a UDP family. A UDP family must mean something. It's not just words you utter. And, you know, on our side of this competition or this run, this race, we wanted to win. And so I would expect some of that from my camp, but ultimately we need the party to win, and we need Belize to win. So I am, you know, I have to, it's about leadership, right? It's about making the right decision in that moment, and I strongly feel that we made the right decision. And we will, a time will come perhaps in the future when there is another leadership convention, whenever that is, 2-3 years from now, that we can reassess and determine if we want to be in that race again. But for now, our delegates have spoken.
So what do you think was the edge that ultimately made Shambara win?
I think there are lots of things. I think certainly the influence of our former Prime Minister, money. I think certainly a lot of money was being spent in this campaign. I really think those things weighed significantly in this process. But that is the culture we have nurtured in this country in terms of politics. Those things are real. I maintained a very clean campaign, above board. We hit no punches below the belt. Again, because I feel that it's not healthy for the kind of environment we need to nurture within our organization.
Now, so from the outside looking in, people will see this as your loss, as a rejection of the party in the older or more experienced representatives. with the exception of the former prime minister, who naturally supported his son, you had the majority of the experienced representatives and well-known and senior UDPs in your camp. Do you see that as such, as perhaps a rejection of the old and a need for change?
No, I don't know if it's a rejection of the old. I don't know, for example, how much consultation or delegates or standard bearers did, for example, with the wider population. I feel very strongly that in terms of public support and public sentiment, we won by a landslide. However, we have 516 delegates. 516 delegates are very easily, you can influence a small group of delegates. I don't think 516 or whatever the figure is representative of the views of the membership of the United Democratic Party. And it's certainly not representative of the electoral pool in the country. But it is what it is, and I will certainly be advocating for constitutional reforms within the United Democratic Party, because we must have a sense of fair play. We must be more inclusive in our decision-making processes. We are a mass political party, and so we must take on board the views of the persons that we seek to represent. 516 is not the number. 38% of the electoral pool supported the United Democratic Party in the last general elections, and so we need to take that into account.
Ultimately, 256 people decided. But going back to the campaign itself, and let me just take a moment, I wouldn't want it to go unsaid, or condolences on the loss of your husband in the midst of it. I think many people for a moment said, will she continue? It was completely understandable if you'd said, I won't pursue, and I know you've given all your reasons already. But even before that, you stepping forward to challenge the post of leadership was already historic, as the first female attempting to become a leader of a mass political party in Belize.
Right.
And while there's been a lot of conversations globally and even locally about the challenges of being a female vying for political leadership, we did see some of it play out.
Yes.
Yes. Experience-wise, if we remove gender from it, experience-wise, you were the more fit candidate. Shine Barrow is a first-time representative, and when you look at it, tell me from your point of view where you saw the gender disparities play out. Not, this is an indictment on all of us, because we're still learning how to truly embrace women leadership.
You know, being female was almost a disadvantage. And my opponent, my competitor, my colleague used it effectively, I think, in his own approach to the campaign. You know, I really, my mother's view, we did a short documentary which my mother spoke, is really my view. It's not that I'm going to be a female leader, but I'm going to be a good leader who happens to be female. Those are realities. We live in a very patriarchal society. But I do think, well, I know for sure, I enjoyed the support of both the female and male candidates in the party, the delegates, sorry, in the party. But we still have a way to go for women who seek political leadership. I was prepared to take that quantum leap. I was prepared to do the work. I was prepared to set the stage for other women who want to seek political leadership. And I hope I made a few more cracks in the glass ceiling for women in Belize. If I did that, I think we accomplished a lot in this campaign. I am going to continue to advocate for greater participation of women in leadership, not only in political leadership, but in all areas of our society, because we have to have a voice. And it takes a great deal of courage to put yourself out there when you're the only one doing it. But we must have a voice, and we must not fear, or be intimidated by the daunting task that we have before us. 51% of our population are women. And where we are now is really a far cry from where we ought to be, in my humble opinion.
Did you have the support of the women in the party?
I had support of some of the women. Not all of the women supported me. And I don't want women to support me just because I'm a woman, right? I want women to support me because they believe in what I bring to the table, or what I can do, or they believe in my cause or my vision. It's not offering myself because I thought that would have been an advantage. No.
How do you go forward lending support to your party leader, especially in areas where he, as some would put it, may be inexperienced?
As I said, I will do whatever I am able to do to support the rebuilding and healing of the party. It doesn't mean that I will do so void of an opinion of my own, or what I think is good for this party and what needs to be done for this party. My voice is going to be clear, as I have always maintained. But I do think that it's time for all 31 of our elected officials and caretakers to sit at the table and have the hard conversation. There are things that we need to do, and there are things we need to be doing differently. And it's okay if we share a different opinion, but it must be done in a respectful way, and it must be done in a way that promotes fair play.
I think there's this view, because you raised it, there is this view that the old guards, as one would put it, supported Shine Barrow because he seemed to be more open to the idea of them holding positions within the party in terms of being caretakers, etc., versus the position that former leader Patrick Faber, who supported you publicly, took. What is in your view, what is the position in terms of those old guards? Do you see them holding any sort of position, any sort of influence within the party moving forward? And what's your position on that?
Well, I think we need to have constituency conventions. I think that the people in the various constituencies must determine who they want their standard bearer to be. I don't think there are any sacred cows, or sorry, not cows, but there are no sacred positions. There should be. I think that we must stay true to our foundational principle that we are a democratic party, and so those who want to remain as standard bearers of the various constituencies must be able to go to a convention, so the people in those constituencies or supporters in those constituencies can determine who that standard bearer will be, that will represent the United Democratic Party in the general election moving forward. The sooner we get that work done, the better, so that we can be clear who are the people who will be leading the charge to move the party forward. I think we need to make some changes. And that's my view. I am not saying that there is not a place in the party for all of us, but not all of us need to sit in the front row or should be sitting in the front row. And those are not easy conversations to have, but they are important conversations to have, and we have to determine what is it that we're trying to accomplish. Is it self-preservation? Is it maintaining a robust democracy? Is it that we want to be returned to government in 2025? And then once we determine what those goals are, then we need to work towards it and be honest and open and frank and make hard decisions when we need to make the hard decisions.
You know, you said about people in the front row, and I want to ask this question before we lose the opportunity. When we talk about what is happening within the UDP, it plays out publicly and it has an impact on the wider public.
Yes.
The budget debate was a clear example of that. There were only 2 representatives present throughout the entire time. I know Honorable Pat came in and out, but ultimately 2 of 5, less than 50%. It is, one, I want to say, the opposition are paid positions, so it's a lack of fulfillment of duties. But secondly, it is failing the Belizean public, all voters who went out. What do you say? I mean, how do you go back to your party and say, look, this is beyond just us and the color we wear. This is about what we offer to the Belizean people.
I agree. I think we have a duty and an obligation, a responsibility to be present and to participate in House proceedings, particularly the debate. It's such an important public policy statement. I have no knowledge of why certain of my colleagues were not present. I do know that the Honorable Patrick Faber is out of country. He has not returned to country. I'm not certain what the situation is with my colleague from Queen Square, but I do think we ought to do better.
But what do you think it says that her nephew is not able, she's been absent since she's taken over, she's been elected. But what do you think it says that the existing leader of the opposition, now leader of the party, has voted yesterday, is not able to bring his aunt back to work?
Well, maybe he will be able to. I really don't know what has held her back from participating in the process. But I do know that each of us who are elected have a duty and an obligation to represent the people who elected us. We must be the voice for the voiceless. And so I certainly hold that responsibility as sacred. Sacred. I offered myself political office because I wanted an opportunity to serve my constituency and serve my country. And that's a duty and obligation that I will carry out for as long as the people allow me that opportunity.
Now, looking at the things like Caucus for Change, those were some of these public signs of the fractures internally. Do you think that bodies like the Caucus for Change will continue to hold a presence moving forward?
I can't say. I certainly am not a member of the Caucus for Change. I think that that process or those kinds of specialized groupings move away from uniting the party. In that's my personal opinion. I am hopeful now that the matter has been settled, that a leader has been chosen, that we all agree that we need to move forward, that kind of splintering of the party will come to an end.
So, moving forward, you've said that you want to support Honorable Shyne Barrow as the new leader of the party. Do you think that he is open to feedback from the rest of the party in terms of helping him grow as the new leader?
Well, I hope he will be. I hope he will be. This is his first official day on the job. We haven't had a chance to meet. I did congratulate him yesterday, certainly on his run and on his win. I am hopeful that the people who he has surrounded himself will understand the absolute importance of forging a united front and moving forward if we are serious about serving this country. And so it will be left to be seen how we proceed, but certainly it is my view that the United Democratic Party needs all hands on deck to move us forward.
What do you think it will take for the UDP to move past the challenges of the past almost 2 years? You're looking at 2 leadership conventions before the general election, a massive defeat in the general and subsequently municipal election, and it's just been turmoil.
Yes, it has been tumultuous. It has been. A lot of healing has to happen, and for me, the first step to healing is that we have to be honest about what has happened and why it has happened, and then we must make a commitment that we will not allow that to happen again. We will not allow it to happen again. What has happened in these campaigns, all of them, including this one, there's some things that we should stand against, because it might not affect you now directly, but in the future it potentially can affect you. And I think our ultimate motivation has to be what's good for the people. How do we serve this country, even if it's just 5 of us in the House? And how do we rally the support of our colleagues to help bolster our position as a party, and how we bolster our efforts to hold this present administration to account? It really will take some forgiveness, some frank conversations, and our ability to put our own personal ambitions aside, maybe, for the greater good of the party.
Do you think that after all that has happened, leadership within the UDP is of the view that you must now walk a tight rope in terms of your leadership, in terms of what you do in the public? Is there this heightened sense of awareness now? You've seen 3 leaders within the last 17 months, as you've rightfully said. Some people that say unogozo bad. Is that the case within the party now, that sort of tightrope walking?
The party is not yet united, let's say that. But I think we understand that this hemorrhaging in the public domain has done no good for us, has done no good for the party, has done no good for the country. I think we all understand that. And it's now time for us to say, and we're going to have, it's not going to be an easy fix. There's no magic wand. There's nothing like that. It's going to be time and effort, and so and goodwill and all of these things. So, but we need to have those discussions, whatever they are, internally and not in the public domain.
Your campaign was "The time is now." Will the time come again later? Are you? Have you decided that you would put yourself forward again if there is another leadership convention?
Absolutely. I am very clear in my own mind why I chose to offer myself as a candidate to lead the United Democratic Party. And those reasons haven't changed. I really believe that I bring a lot to the table. And I am, I don't make commitments willy-nilly. When I make a commitment, I stick with the commitment. And a lot of people have asked me that question, Marlene. It would have been understandable if when your husband made his transition, that you would have stepped back. I made a commitment, and I could not fall short of that. I had to complete that process. That was important to me. I'm sure it would have been important to him. It was important to my family. When you make these decisions, you don't make these decisions alone. Your family comes with you in this process. And so I was not prepared to let myself down, my husband down, my family down. And I was certainly not prepared to let down the hundreds of people, thousands of people who supported me through this process. It has been absolutely amazing. People I have never met in my life who kept texting me and encouraging me and supporting me however they knew. And so for me, that is when leadership is important, when the chips are down and when you're facing your greatest adversity in your life, that you're able to push through and hold on to your hopes and aspirations and dreams and vision for a better Belize.
And when is the next leadership convention?
Well, according to the party's convention, it's every 2 years.
Yeah.
Every 2 years. So I'll keep working. I'll keep working for the party. I'll keep
That
staying.
would be right before general election.
If
there's no snap election.
If there's no snap elections, and if there are no revisions of the Constitution that will look at that, as we had done previously when the Prime Minister was about to make his transition, we had made some changes to the party's convention constitution to facilitate him staying on a little longer. So all sorts of dynamics certainly can happen, but I am fit to lead. I am fit to lead now, and I am sure I'll be fit to lead in the future. And so I will continue to work with my colleagues, to stay in touch with our delegates, because that is required if we're really going to heal this party and move forward as a viable alternative to govern.
What's the lesson that Tracy takes away from this?
There are many. There are certainly many. But you know, Marlene, there are more good people in this world. And the tremendous amount of support that I got in this process inspired a renewed sense of hope in me of what is possible. We still have a long journey ahead of us, but we cannot fear, and we must continue to walk boldly and unapologetically ahead to realize your own dreams, but also to realize my aspirations for this country. I think we have so much potential, not only as a party, but as a country. And I want to be part of that movement for change, and change for good.
Some say that Belize is not politically mature enough for a female leader in politics. Do you agree after this experience?
I do think that we are still very patriarchal in our views in terms of women in political leadership. I think we have been more accepting of women in other leadership in other areas, but in political leadership, yes, we have a way to go.
Any closing thoughts to our viewers this morning?
Well, I just really and truly want to thank everybody who participated in the democratic process yesterday, all our delegates throughout the country, and the Belizean people who remained engaged in this process as we sought to determine a new leader for the United Democratic Party. There was so much engagement in social media, for example. I had an amazing team, and I have an amazing family, and I really want to thank you for supporting me and for lifting me up at a time when, you know, I could have taken my step back. But I did this because I believe in what we set out to do, and we will continue to work for the greater good of Belize.
All right. Well, thank you for coming in. I think it speaks volumes because a lot of people hide after a loss. I think it speaks volumes that you have been facing the media, and we appreciate you coming in and sharing your experience.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, with that, we'll take another break, and when we come back, we have the CEO in the Ministry of Education who will be giving us more details on the free education program and other stuff going on within the Ministry of Education. You don't want to miss that conversation, so please stay tuned.
Technology is ubiquitous, and it's transforming how, when, and where we work. Full-Tech Systems is placing award-winning devices in the hands of information workers, allowing them to work without compromise in a world without wires, to innovate, create, and to maximize productivity anytime, anywhere, satisfying the needs of the desk-centric remote and field worker and every other worker in between. We are providing the industry's best devices to businesses going through the process of digital transformation. Partner with us today to provide the solutions that will allow your employees to work effectively and efficiently to enhance your customers' experience. Full-Tech Systems, your technology center, where you'll come for the price but stay for the service.
Download the SmartStream app on the Android Play Store and create your account to get access to movies and stream at home or on the go. Prepaid customers can purchase regular data packages or get a discounted rate on a special SmartStream package by dialing 7737. Postpaid customers will be billed monthly. Never miss a movie again with SmartStream.
Introducing MaBeBelize.com. Your best solution in home appliances is now one click away. With countrywide delivery, it's easier now than ever to go Mabe. www.mabebelize.com. Enjoy life easier with countrywide delivery.
Why should you wear your mask? To protect myself. My friends. My family and others. I wear my mask because I love my grandparents. With so many reasons to wear a mask, we continue to advise persons to wear a face mask properly, covering both nose and mouth. Together, we can keep Belize COVID-19 safe.
Hola usuario de eCash, la aplicación eCash está disponible en español. Cambiar el idioma de tu aplicación de eCash de inglés a español es rápido y sencillo. Déjame mostrarte cómo se hace. Primero, abre tu aplicación eCash. Introduce tu PIN. Toca el icono More en la parte inferior de tu pantalla. Selecciona Security. Selecciona Language. Y luego selecciona Spanish. Vuelve a introducir tu PIN y ya está. Tu aplicación de eCash está ahora en español y puedes seguir disfrutando de tu cartera digital eCash. La aplicación eCash de Belize Bank te hace la vida más fácil.
If you're looking for low-cost television advertising, have we got a deal for you? Advertise on Channel 5's Daily Classifieds. Channel 5's Daily Classifieds is one of the most effective methods for introducing yourself and your business to the community. Use our Daily Classifieds to recruit employees, promote specials, promote your products or services, promote a business opportunity, increase traffic to your website, and advertise items you have for sale. Let us help you save valuable time and money. Call us today at 223-0146 or visit us at our offices on Pony Drive to discuss how we can help your business grow affordably. Channel 5's Daily Classifieds. Advertise today.
All right, welcome back. This morning, again, we are set to have a discussion with another woman in leadership. This time, CEO in the Ministry of Education. Good morning, Miss Matia.
Good morning. Good morning.
All right.
Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. We're keeping with the trend this morning, women in leadership. We're coming to the end of Women's Month, so it's only right. But of course, we're here to talk about an important topic, education. We see where several interventions are taking place within Belize City to try and curb some of the fundamental issues that our young people are facing, and one of those solutions, perhaps, or contribution to that discussion is education. And so here you are, you and your ministry have been making an effort to kind of bridge that gap where education is concerned, particularly in Southside Belize City. And I raise that because in the House of Representatives last week, we saw an announcement, we heard an announcement first from the Deputy Prime Minister, Colonel Hyde, who announced that free education program is being rolled out. We've heard about the education program, free education program, but he made mention of some specific high schools. So what can you tell us about what's happening there with the free education program?
All right, thank you. So the Education Upliftment Project,
yes,
the theme, the overarching, the umbrella idea for this project is Together We Rise. This is the brainchild of Minister Fonseca, and it's been fully embraced by our government. We're so grateful for that. And we do get the Education Upliftment Project rolling come the new academic year. But the work has actually been ongoing for the past few months. The 4 schools that are targeted are Gwen-Lizarraga High School, Excelsior, Maud Williams, and Sadie Vernon. So we know that these are 4 really important schools to help to capture and to engage the population of young people in the south side of Belize City. We have done needs assessment surveys. Extensive work has been done within the Ministry of Education to try to document what the needs are. Because I'm sure if you have a conversation with anybody, everybody will say, oh, this is what's happening, oh, this is what they need. Well, we actually have done needs assessment surveys to recognize what needs are. And based on what we've found from those surveys, based on the communications that our officers have had, we've really been able to start to flesh out this project. And as you said just now, one component is definitely the free education. We've spoken here in this very room. We have spoken about losing students over the course of the pandemic. What we see is that the combined enrollment in those 4 schools right now is 798 over 4 high schools. And these are schools that have the capacity to hold so many more. So
that's post-COVID.
Well, this is current.
This is, okay.
This is current, right? Wow. Pre-COVID, I mean, easily one of these schools could have held, over 400 students. So to have 4 schools with a combined enrollment of less than 800 is really telling, right? It lets us know how many students have basically been lost along the way. We've spoken about how during the pandemic, we couldn't be sure how many people we had lost because it wouldn't be until we began to bring them back into school that we could tell. Well, the past few months of tracking attendance have said to us that it's significant.
So let me just backtrack for a bit. I do want to say, I remember when you and Minister Fonseca were here and you announced that you would be exploring this pilot project. It sounds like you've been putting in quite a bit of groundwork with that research. What are the reasons that we found so far that specifically students at high school age are not returning? And is there also a gender, what's the gender breakdown?
So that's a great question. One of the primary reasons we have found has to do with the economics of the situation, right? Not being, at a time when things are hard. It's hard to find money for school fees. Hence the rollout of free education, specifically with these schools. What that means is that come the new academic year, these students will have their tuition and fees completely paid for by the government, okay? Because that's one of the primary reasons for their not returning. We also have seen really concerns regarding food. Food. You know, there's
mommy or
no
daddy
food.
don't have money to give you
no
to buy
money
food.
to give me for food. And so that's why the National Healthy Start Feeding Program is such a priority for this government. We know that we've had feeding programs that have focused on primary schools.
That's what I was going to ask.
Right? And that has been the case. What we're trying to make sure of as we move on is that these the feeding programs that we will be setting up will be run more efficiently. We need to make sure that we really get value for our money. So while we have the feeding program starting, there's going to be a pilot for a new way to run the National Healthy Start Feeding Program for primary schools. That will start with 6 primary schools, and it will cover, it will reach 1,000 students in the first instance. So while that is happening, we also need to make sure that with our 4 schools in the Education Upliftment Project, that we have a feeding program in place for them, so that at minimum we know that when they come to school they can get a meal.
Yes.
You know, so that's one of the things that we're looking at.
One less barrier. So
One
you
less
may
barrier.
have free tuition, but what about uniforms and books and all these other supplementary things that accumulate?
So that's another layer.
Yeah.
You may remember that one of the successful areas of grant funding that we've found is through CABE. CABE has put in place a scholarship fund, and it's going to reach certain students, some of whom will be part of the Education Upliftment Project. And the funds here will go toward uniforms, shoes, the other things that you would need to pay for, right? You know, it's impossible to meet every single need for every single person. But what we're really trying to do is to make sure that we're checking off. It's like you have this really, really long to-do list, and we're trying to check off the barriers.
Yeah, this is almost a crisis situation that you are looking at, with 800 students amongst 4 government high schools. I want to go back to look at some of the policy issues that may be changed. Mandatory education is up until the age of 14, which means after that, nobody really has to send their children to school.
Right.
And that means at the secondary level especially, that's where all the dropouts can happen. Is there a look at policy changes or legislative changes to ensure that at least secondary education is mandatory, which means raising the age?
There has been a study done. It concluded a few months ago, and the overwhelming result of the study was supporting the increasing of the compulsory school age to 16.
Okay.
And so that is one. Oh, of course, with doing that, there are all the ripple effects, right? You know, that we have to look at. Who pays for it?
Yeah.
Exactly. But that's one of the things that we're looking toward, because we recognize how critically important it is for us to try to reach our young people.
What about instruction? You know, I think this is one of the things that we don't talk about. I remember reading a study or an article about a study saying that the best thing to do is to put your strongest educators in your most vulnerable schools. We do the opposite. Or we don't, I don't think we consciously make that effort. There are 2 things I imagine. One, the learning loss that perhaps has taken place, and the undiagnosed or unrecognized learning challenges that people may have that allow them to drop out of school. When you feel like you're only going to fail, you don't want to go back to school. How do we overcome that? with this population that we know if they're educated, they're not on the streets getting involved in crime?
Right. So we really, this is going to be the optimist in me coming out. We really have to make a definitive effort to begin at the beginning, to just focus on the basics again. I'm really thankful that initiatives that we started, like our Teacher Learning Institute, have been so successful, because with an initiative like that, we are able to reach out. We are now over 5,000 teachers across the country who are subscribers on the TLI, and they're active users of the TLI. What this means is that we can use the TLI to help to equip the teachers, the instructors at this school, with the tools that they will need to begin to address these needs. You know, and I think the fact that going into this year, and I mean this current year as well as the academic year to come, going into it, we recognize this as a challenge. We live in a society where for many years, too many of our administrators have denied special needs and learning disabilities at all levels. Too many of our administrators have said, oh, I don't have any students with special needs in my school. What? Like, no. You know, we have students with varied learning disabilities in every classroom in this country, regardless of level. And we are more and more coming to a place where our teachers are cognizant of that fact, and our administrators are now cognizant of that fact. And you know, if you know that there is a problem, you can begin to address it. And so now the fact that across the board we have a more universal acceptance of this means that we can begin to address. We have to start with the teachers, we have to start with the principals. We begin to, and we have, just to be fair, I'm saying, you know, I'm using future tense, but in reality we have started this work. This work started some time ago.
But it sounds like an intensive care program for these 4 schools. And so the question is, are you taking the teachers and administrators from these schools who you're hoping to re-engage these young minds and get them interested and willing to go back to school? Is there a concentrated effort there? Because even the type of instruction that we do, we know it's not one size fits all. You've been in a classroom, you know that.
I know this. Actually, yes, starting next month, we begin a series of workshops, training sessions. We're beginning with the administrators of the schools, the principal, vice principal, board members. We start with them, and you know, the goal is to really make this be something that we're beginning with you, and then it spreads out so that we can engage the community of the school. And there are lots of layers here, right? Because I mean, we're looking at fees, we're looking at the economics of it, we're looking at the learning. We also have to look at, you know, the curriculum needs. We have to look at, and then the external things like transportation.
And mental health.
The mental health needs of these communities, you know, and so we have a lot of different ideas for ways to expand the reach, make this be more than just I'm putting a Band-Aid on this cut. You know, trying to see how we can solve and resolve a lot of the issues that are happening.
So far financially, the commitment that you have, because you're right, and it's almost like, you know, you can't just focus on one area, because you could give tuition, but then they may not have uniform. You could give uniform, but they may not have food. You can give food, but then they can't walk across.
But there's no internet.
Yeah, you can't walk across because you don't walk across enemy turf, you know?
Right.
And I may also have major issues at home that make me incapable of being tuned in a classroom. So is it just a Ministry of Education program? Or are you working with other ministries?
We are.
Health, human development?
We have commitment across the board. I mean, just now you said health and human development, and both of those ministries have committed their support and are willing, and other ministries have as well. I mean, like infrastructure, for example. The Ministry of Infrastructure and Development is helping us with, you know, figuring out what needs to be done with these buildings. You know, what's structurally sound, where where do we do renovations, what needs improvement, and in those ways, really, we save money because we recognize where we have in-house capacity from ministry to ministry. And so I'm really grateful because we have the commitment of other ministries to work with us in the many different areas.
Let's perhaps look at the National Healthy Start feeding program. What that entails in terms of its objectives and its goals.
Okay, so one of the Sustainable Development Goals, of course, is to ensure that children are able to have healthy and nutritious meals. And so that has been the commitment of really every school feeding program there. What we've recognized is that we really need to do more. We need to expand the feeding programs that existed before. And as I said, we need to make sure that as a government that we get value for money. So the feeding program now, as it's being worked out, as it's being piloted, we have support from external organizations. AMEXID and FAO, for example, are very involved, very engaged. And they're helping us to build a program that is sort of a wraparound program. So it links the community. It links, so it teaches about, for example, school gardens. So you learn to plant. It links in the rural communities. It's linked to the farmers who are in the community. The families learn to support the program as well. So it's not, no school will be operating in isolation for its feeding program. And in that way, the goal is to make it a sustainable program. This is not, I'm paying you $5 for a meal and you're bringing in a plate of food for the kids. It's not that concept.
Because I know that the school garden concept has been one that's been ongoing for a while. Have we explored why it has not taken off and how you strengthen it now with this new model?
So it's difficult for me to speak of pre-pandemic. But during the pandemic, obviously, it was very hard for schools to maintain their gardens because they weren't there. And I think one of the things that we've learned from COVID is not just the need to eat healthier and, you know, to be more conscious of what we put on our table, but also the benefits of gardening. The benefits, mental health as well as physical health, right? So I think that as we begin to move back to school, we are going to see more interest in from the teachers, even from students, because we have seen students who have been gardening at home with their parents, right? So I think that regardless of whatever challenges existed with maintaining school gardens before, I think we are going to see more interest in keeping the gardens active, keeping the gardens healthy. I think we recognize that gardening is good for schools on more than one level now. This is not just, you know, there's a lot of things are shifting about school now. A lot of things that were thought of as add-ons, as unnecessary, as the things that you do. If you have time, then you can do this. If you have time, you do PE. If you have time, you do art. You know, first you have to hit the books. I think what we're seeing is a shift to recognize that these things really are such a crucial part of your learning experience. And so I am so happy for that. I've been a proponent of that sort of thing for so long.
The interactive learning is, and for children, you know, that's far more fun and engaging.
Learning has to be relevant. You know, you can be building a garden and you know, counting blocks and measuring and, you know, you read and you write and you do math. The difference between
the liter and the cup of water, all these things.
You know, there's so many ways to make everything connect.
I wanna just, if I could shift gears so quickly, because I know that the biggest thing on people's mind right now is the going back to school, the full return to school, and there is a hybrid structure in place right now. I think almost all schools are open now and not online with hybrid, and you're rolling out a diagnostic test. You've said that you won't publicize the results in general, but what are you measuring from the children?
So what we're trying to figure out really is, where are you? Where are you specifically with language literacy and with math literacy, with numeracy, right? One of the challenging things about a diagnostic test from the point of the teacher, the person who's administering the test, is you really need to be flexible with it. Because especially for us in this situation where as a nation we've never attempted to do this before, and we've had to recognize that if you, for example, Paul, are in standard 4, I can't automatically give you the standard 4 test because you may not be able to do the standard 4 test because you've effectively maybe not have been engaged for 2 years. So there's a certain amount of flexibility, and it's terrifying.
No, I'm thinking standard 4, the last time they were in a classroom was standard 2.
Exactly.
That's mind-blowing.
So we've had to really be flexible with this, and we've had to, say, all right, well, maybe we won't start with this. Maybe we'll start with this, because you're right, the psychological effects of something. If you start off something and you're successful in the beginning, you're more inclined to continue. If you start something and you are at page 1 and you are like totally unable to do this, you're going to be bawling and giving up, right? So what we're attempting to find out is, where are you as the student?
Not based on class level, but based on age markers? I'm trying to understand. So it's like, if I'm 11, I should know, I should be standard 4, standard 5, something like that.
So it's
upper
more,
school?
So it's more like, okay, at the end of standard 4, I expect that you will have covered these things in English, in language. At the end of standard 4, I expect that you should be able to do these things in math. Can you do them? Right? And then if you can't, then what the teachers need to do is figure out how to get you to that point where you should be.
So it's almost like measuring the collective learning loss that we know has taken place
know
over
it
the
happened,
pandemic.
but how do we quantify it? That's a difficult thing, right? So
are all schools doing it?
Yes.
It's mandatory?
It's mandatory, and the test has been, the suite of tests covers from infant 1 to standard 6. So it's significant. Now, there have been a few challenges. There are bumps in the road as we start. First of all, we can only do the diagnostic test for the child who is in school, right? So in the beginning, there were little issues. January, we didn't have full attendance. We tried to get everybody in during the month of January. We didn't get everybody in during the month of February, as our COVID numbers went down and attendance went up. They were directly, related. So we've seen attendance improve greatly over the past few weeks. As the attendance has grown, so has the ability or the capacity to begin to administer the diagnostic test. But it really isn't something that you can do or that you should do all at once in one day. You kind of need to break it up, especially because the kids are, for the in most cases, coming back like 2 days at a time, or they have shortened days. It's like building back your capacity. If you haven't been exercising for a long time, the first day you exercise, you can't do all that you used to do before. Right? So you have to build back, right? So it's taking a while. The teachers also have been incredible, just learning how to do this, learning about the administration of the test, as well as how to mark the test and how to plug in the results so that they can tell really what your scores show. And then of course the next step is, how do I now tailor my plans to try to reach? If I expect that in my classroom, for example, all of my children, all my students are supposed to know how to multiply fractions. And I recognize from this test that they don't know how to multiply fractions. As a matter of fact, they hardly remember what fractions are. I know that I have to adjust my lesson. It doesn't matter what my curriculum, my pre-pandemic curriculum says. I have to make sure that I go back now and I start, with refreshing for what fractions are.
This, I'd venture to say maybe next year, 2 years, it's all kind of like figuring out how to adjust the school system going back. And I know the anticipation is that by next semester, all children will go back face to face. But we understand the financial situation in the country, and schools are starting to feel it as well. Parents can't or won't pay fees. Schools have to provide some basic necessities, from your electricity to the water and the soap and hand sanitizer, and it's becoming unsustainable in some schools. How do you as a ministry look at where these financial implications are showing up? You can't force parents to pay. Schools aren't forcing parents to pay. How do you move forward understanding the realities on the ground?
I think that we have really been trying to deal with whatever requests are coming to us. Like literally on a case-by-case basis. As far as the need for cleaning supplies, soap and sanitizer, that sort of thing has been, we've been addressing. We have been giving. We had that huge donation from the Church of Latter-day Saints a couple months ago, when we issued close to 2,000 packages of soap, sanitizer, masks, cleaning supplies, bleach, disinfectant. And we are now, we've had in stock. So if a school says, help, I'm out, we're able to respond. We've also seen that the community has responded to schools' needs. So I think that the need for that urgency that at one point schools were feeling, I would venture to say that it has lessened. We are now beginning a purchase from ministry funds, and we've done all the work. We're getting the supplies in now to set up another almost 2,000 packages, so that again, when a school says, help, I'm out, we are able to respond. Another need that we have seen, that we've heard from the schools, is the need for paper.
Or printing costs.
Right? So we have to try to address what we can, and what we found was that we could help with paper. So beginning, I think it should be the end of this week, I think the paper got delivered to us, but we will be giving each school paper to help, because that's been significant. So we actually did you know how I am with my lists. we looked at the list, and we did it based on population, right? If your population was this much, you get one case. If it's this much, you get 2 cases, that sort of thing. So we have paper to help them with. We've had requests from schools to assist with water bill, for example. We've had requests
let's
to help
look at
with
what's happening.
Cleaners, with
2 things.
wardens.
Either parents can't pay, and that's a reality, or they're saying, why should I pay if my child is only there part-time, but schools require funds to run? So it is a tough situation. So it does seem that you're diving into some of the more practical needs for schools that get overlooked.
And because that's what we have to do, right? It's like if you run your household, you have to figure out, okay, what do I need? This is what I have. This is what I need. How do I begin to match those things up? And that's really been our approach, you know. if the schools, and we can't solve all the problems immediately. Some of the requests that we get, we can't address right away, but we kind of have to table them until we can.
Yeah.
But we've really been trying to do that, you know. And I have to again commend the schools and the communities that work with them, because we have seen, especially in some of the rural areas, you know, we've seen where the community has really just band together and supported the school. So, you know, I've said to, you know, I said to a principal a couple of weeks ago, I was like, how do you do this? You know, the school is this beautiful little place, San Pedro Government School in rural Corozal, and it's a lovely school, and it's been supported by the community. The U.S. Southern Command assisted with building a new building for them, and you know, it's this lovely little place, and everybody's there, they're working, they're engaged, and I think, you know, that really our principals and our teachers can work magic sometimes.
There are many unsung heroes in the education.
Absolutely.
And I want to take the opportunity. I know you were recently in Graham Creek at the school there. We at Channel 5 have a long history. I remember our reporter Andrea Polanco did the trek in when there was no road. To show what teachers had to endure. Tell us a bit of what Graham Creek is like today.
Well, I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing. We took the boat route in. We were told that because of the rains, that it would not have been advisable for us to make the trek. So we did a 2-hour boat ride, and then it was about a 30-minute hike in.
So it still has some accessibility issues.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. No, that hasn't changed. It has not changed. And it was an absolutely phenomenal experience. It was so powerful. And Graham Creek, the government school, is staffed by 2 wonderful teachers. The principal is a teaching principal, and so he teaches from Standard 2 to Standard 6. The other teacher teaches from Infant 1 to Standard 1. It's a 2-classroom school. And they have, they have phone service and internet from Guatemala. Because you can't get service from Belize, but you can get from Guatemala. They have their books and material. They have their challenges, but they go to school. They rotate their schedules. It's like the same things that everyone else is going through, they're going through. They wear their masks, and they have their schedules, and they're learning amidst all the challenges. You know, the language of instruction in the school is English. They speak Spanish and Quechua, and it just was an absolutely fantastic experience. We're so glad that we had just received that donation of laptops. And so we were able to take 5 of them, and you know, immediately the principal says, oh no, great, I can use this to help me with BDAT.
And this was the one through the diaspora, the laptop donation that's being done with the diaspora unit. Running out of time, and I have 2 other issues very quickly. And you could just give me an update. One, I saw, you know, Stella Maris. What is happening with Stella Maris, and also IT vets, because these are 2 areas near and dear to my heart. I think, you know, children can benefit from vocational learning, and it helps to build entrepreneurs, and or special needs children have long needed a proper school.
So we are looking at some real revolutionizing what's happening at Stella Maris. One of the things that we have recognized is that Stella Maris is much more than a primary school. It cannot, and it should no longer be continue to be treated as a regular primary school. This is really a center for lifelong learning. And so the chief and I have been part of some work that's been happening there, and they are doing a lot of work. We have a principal who is extremely committed to just changing ideas there. And so I think that's great. She's doing a great job. And part of the difference is the approach. We're looking with Stella Maris, like I said, at seeing it as somewhere that students can be for longer than their primary years. Because the need, you don't stop being a special needs student when you're finished with primary school. You know, this is for life. So we're really
and a lot of times they graduate and nobody wants to employ them.
Nobody wants to employ them. So we're focusing really on building life skills and employability for these students. And I hope that in April you're going to be open to talking with some of them, because we have a team that's working on some really exciting initiatives that will engage students who are at Stella Maris and other special needs students across the country. So that's exciting, and I'm really happy about that. I'm very proud of the team that's working now with special education and guiding the work there. The special envoy, Mrs. Briseño, is very engaged, and Christy from Autism Belize, they have been really committed to expanding the vistas and building capacity. Today they start, all the special education officers across the country are beginning today an intensive week-long training to build their capacity in so many different things, including the writing of IEPs, which is a fantastic, it's never been done before, it's absolutely needed. So there's great things happening there internally. And then we also have physical work on the building and the structure that is going to be beginning. So that's
okay.
We're
so we'll look forward to more updates with that one. That'll be a separate conversation.
That's a whole other conversation.
And enrollment at IT Vet, I know Belize City was struggling for a bit.
Yeah, they're all struggling. Yeah, we have a lot to do where the IT Vets are concerned. We're grateful. We have new boards of management at the IT Vets, people who are really excited, I think, about trying to do things differently. And one thing I'm particularly excited about is that we've been having conversations about priority needs for the country across the ministries, right? My colleague CEOs have been very patient with me. I ask them questions like, so what do you guys see that you need? What do we need in this country? Because we do not have a current or an updated list of priority areas of study. We didn't find any. And we have to recognize that we are at a time when we need our young people to stop thinking, oh, I want to be a doctor, lawyer, engineer. Like, we don't need anybody else to study business administration. Sorry, business people. But, you know, we need to begin to look at other things, right? And so, as I said, my colleague CEOs have been wonderful and patient with me, and they've given me all these lists. They know I'm a list person, I think, right? But of fantastic ideas, and we've seen that there's so many opportunities that exist. I'll give you one example. CEO Urbina says to me, maritime and logistics professionals. And I said, what's that? And he said, wait. And I had a fantastic meeting at the Port Authority with two brilliant gentlemen, and found out all about how many career opportunities there are in this field. You know, from marine engineers to, you know, all the training that you can do to be a boat captain, and you know, and all the career opportunities that open up along there. And some of these are things that we can do as short-term courses. These are not all necessarily, you know, things that you have to go and study 4 years or 7 years to get a degree for. Bit by bit, we want to begin to engage our IT vets with some of these newer, if you will. And I'm only saying new because I think they're new for us to realize and publicize, not because these needs weren't there before, right? But we want to begin to link with the IT vets across the country to begin to offer more courses that are things that we recognize as needs. The Belize City IT vet is now running the Skills for the Green Economy course. And that is absolutely something else that we need. You know, there are lots of areas where we have to begin to expose our young people, things that are country absolutely needs. I have a pending meeting for air traffic controllers. You know, Ministry of the Blue Economy and Civil Aviation. This is not just about being a pilot. You know, you can also be an air traffic controller. We need these jobs in our country. So we're trying to put together, it's a priority for us, a list that is going to be directly related to not just what you want to be, but how can you get there. And then it's
jobs that exist.
Connected to jobs that exist. Exactly.
All right. So, anything else you'd like to share with us? We're so out of time.
Oh my goodness. No, we have. There's much work to be done.
Well, we appreciate you coming in. I think everyone wanted more information about the pilot program for secondary education in the South Side. It's called Uplifting.
The Education Upliftment Project. Together we rise.
Together we rise. And of course, the updates and all the other aspects. And I'm sure there's much more.
Lots more.
All right. Thank you so much for coming in.
I forgot something very important. Please, I need to congratulate the team at Niche and the Institute of Creative Arts for the absolutely fantastic work that has been happening. The Women in Art exhibit.
Yes.
You know, we're talking about women in leadership. I think that the theme that they had, the reemergence, a kaleidoscope of creativity, is just fantastic. It's so exciting that we are seeing the reemergence of art and culture. And so, you know, and it's women-led.
Right? The curator was a woman, Brigida, of course, there. And I think that exhibit is still open until the 31st.
Yes, it is. So if you haven't seen it yet, please check it out. It's a great exhibit, and there's much work. There's a show, a dance show happening this weekend at the Bliss. We're back.
Finally,
we're
right?
back. Yes.
Okay.
and it's women-led. Right?
There you go. All right. Well, thank you, CEO. With that, we're going to take our final break, and we'll be back to wrap up this morning's show. Stay tuned.
Galenia Hospital, located in Cancun, Mexico's premier tourism destination, is a state-of-the-art healthcare facility that provides highly specialized medical services. We are Quintana Roo's biggest private hospital with board-certified doctors and staff. Some of our services include Cath Lab, Adult Intensive Care Unit, Neonatal Intensive Care Unit, emergency rooms, operating theaters, ambulance services, and more. We are a medically accredited hospital by JCI, Accreditation Canada International, and General Health Council, providing extraordinary care in every specialty, from our cardiology department to our neurology center. We are focused on treating the entire person, body, mind, and spirit. Contact us at medicaltourism@hospitalgalenia.com or visit our website at www.hospitalgalenia.com. Come to Galenia Hospital in Cancun for a truly personal medical care experience.
Your life just got a lot less complicated with Belize Bank Contactless MasterCard Debit Card. Introducing our Standard Debit and MasterCard Platinum Debit Cards. Now you can make purchases anywhere MasterCard is accepted with one tap, pay and go. Your contactless card never has to leave your hands, especially in these times. And your card is embedded with multiple layers of security. Platinum card holders get to enjoy extra benefits like price protection, purchase protection, trip inconvenience, and luggage protection, just to name a few. Start enjoying a cashless lifestyle today with the Belize Bank.
Download the SmartStream app on the Android Play Store and create your account to get access to movies and stream at home or on the go. Prepaid customers can purchase regular data packages or get a discounted rate on a special SmartStream package by dialing 7737. Postpaid customers will be billed monthly. Never miss a movie again with SmartStream.
Lamb's Funeral Service can assist you with a dignified send-off for your dearly departed, offering a complete funeral package which includes cremation, dressing, preparation, and repatriation of remains. Caskets, wreaths, and tombs are uniquely made by us. We provide quality service at the most affordable price. Give us a call or WhatsApp at 626-5732 or 623-2597. During ceremonies, the option of live streaming is available. Lamb's Family Funeral Service. It's not just a business. We are a shoulder for you to lean on.
If you're looking for low-cost television advertising, have we got a deal for you? Advertise on Channel 5's Daily Classifieds. Channel 5's Daily Classifieds is one of the most effective methods for introducing yourself and your business to the community. Use our Daily Classifieds to recruit employees, promote specials, promote your products or services, promote a business opportunity, increase traffic to your website, and advertise items you have for sale. Let us help you save valuable time and money. Call us today at 223-0146 or visit us at our offices on Pony Drive to discuss how we can help your business grow affordably. Channel 5's Daily Classifieds. Advertise today.
And we're back.
Yeah, two wonderful discussions this morning. As I pointed out, women-led discussions in terms of women in leadership. We, of course, began with a conversation with Tracy Panton, Honorable Tracy Panton, who has been able to hold her own before the convention and even leading up to the convention and after the convention. We see where calmer heads are prevailing. We see where she's composed, and she came on the show, of course, agreeing to discuss what happened there at yesterday's convention and what the campaigning was like leading up to the convention, and of course her looking to the future in terms of supporting her party leader, who's now the Honorable Shine Barrow.
You know, I have to say this much. I think it speaks volumes that Tracy showed up this morning to have this conversation, because very often when people are defeated, they go into hiding. We've seen this from politicians over and over and over. You know, I think
them months after.
the last leadership convention that was done twice, you know, you never saw the person who was defeated do an interview. And I say it funny, you know, laughing, but it is a mark of leadership to be able to step forward and talk about, even when things go wrong, how you're dealing with stuff. So I do want to say that much. You know, it's an interesting race, but I from observation alone, from interviews that I've seen, there is a long road ahead of healing for the United Democratic Party. And I don't think it's automatic. I think they will have to perhaps survive a few more clashes of opinions and thoughts before they're able to move forward, because that was a very tight race. There are speculations about, you know, discrepancies with the voting. You know, the Honorable Panton is saying that she will not proceed with any type of court action, but does acknowledge that she gave the example of one box having more ballots than number of voters. So those are real concerns that perhaps are going to linger for some time. And yeah, we'll keep on reporting on it.
And you know, while we congratulate Honorable Panton, it would be remiss of us not to also offer congratulations to the new leader of the United Democratic Party, Shine Barrow, who in some circles was deemed the underdog. Also to congratulate the party on a successful convention. They now have a leader, and we are looking forward to seeing what happens after this in terms of the opposition. I would imagine that very soon, you can mark my words, we'll see a press conference being called within the United Democratic Party. And so that's something to look to.
Yeah, so that was the big development there. And the second part of our show was talking with CEO Diane Mejia from the Ministry of Education. We really wanted to get some details as to how this pilot project, Together We Rise project, is going to be rolled out. You know, I think it is a very noble attempt to be able to get these very vulnerable communities to get their enrollment back up to par. You were talking about a little bit on the 800 high school students returning to school in 4 high schools. And sometimes one high school can have 400 to 600 students. So it is completely a concerning situation. We know how critical education is for people to seek future employment. We know that people of high school age are very impressionable and can be guided into different activities. So being able to keep them in school is something that we all have to be united on wanting to accomplish.
You know, Marlene, as important as these discussions are in terms of moving forward and building from the effects of COVID-19 and the lockdowns, all of this may also be dependent on the possibility of another wave, on the possibility of another case of widespread infections. And so that's another conversation to have as to whether or not in the same manner that we say we're not going to lock down the country anymore, if it is the same with education, if we're going to say, okay, we're not going to shut down schools in the manner we did the last time. So that's another conversation to have.
You know, that's a valid question. But I think she said something, though, that is interesting, because she said enrollment went up as the cases go down. You see, the thing is, you can say, I'm not going to close the schools.
But parents.
But parents, being parents, are going to want to protect their children. And, you know, I know there is still, the WHO put out another warning again yesterday. We have to get 70% of the population vaccinated. In Belize, we are, you know, we have, when you look at the first shot and the second shot, we're doing well, but our booster rates are low. And we know that boosters are needed to be able to be properly protected. Otherwise, new variant comes in, sweeps into the country, and you're not just talking about people getting sick. We don't know what next variant will come or how it will affect people. But you're also talking about the economic losses that can take place.
I mean, it's so much. Economics, education, agriculture, social life, human, it's just widespread, and so God forbid.
You just leave it there. Well, I'm a bit more proactive than that. I don't just wish. I think we have to see more being done, and we all have to see our own, you know, when regulate, there's going to be there have been some mixed reactions about regulations being lifted. And, you know, I understand that. And I think you can have a position either way. But let's not forget, whether the rules say so or not, you can have your own personal protection plan. And the most that we can do to keep reducing the spread of COVID-19 we're keeping the country moving on the right track of getting out of the pandemic. And that also includes getting vaccinated and getting boosted.
Yeah.
So, all right. But that is all the time we have for today. If you'd like to contact us, send us an email at oye@channel5believes.com. And you can also find us on Facebook
at Open Your Eyes BC or on Instagram at OYE Believes.
And remember to tune in tomorrow morning at 6:30 when you open your eyes.
Start your morning right.
Until then, keep your eyes, your mind,
and your heart open.
We'll see you soon. Enjoy your day, please.
Open Your Eyes was brought to you by the Belize Bank. Our country, your bank.